Do you think modern heaters are unbeatable? Wrong thought. Our grandmas knew 27 clever heating hacks that not only make your apartment warmer, but also save you real money and sometimes better than any high-tech heater. If you don't want to miss any of these genius heating hacks, subscribe now and let's get warm through the winter together. Set the thermostat smartly. The temperature decides on the well-being in the room and on the bill at the end of the month. Whoever turns down just 1 degree saves noticeable energy, often 6 to 7% less consumption. In the living room, 20 to 21 degrees are usually enough. In the bedroom, the night feels best at 17 to 18 degrees. In the bathroom, it can be a bit warmer, but only when you really use it. That's how Grandma did it. She knew exactly where it should be cozy and where freshness was better. A thermostat on 5 doesn't mean more heat, but continuous operation that chases the money through the pipes. Constant, moderate settings work more sustainably than constantly turning up and down. The temperature should not fall below 16 degrees, otherwise moisture threatens on the walls. Small decisions at the regulator add up. In the end, it stays warm and the costs decrease. Regularly vent the heating. Air in the radiator prevents the heat from arriving evenly. The top stays cool, while the bottom is barely warm. The consequence is higher consumption, without the room becoming cozy. Therefore, it's worth venting regularly. With a small key, you open the valve, let the air escape, and catch the first drops of water in a bowl. You should have a cloth handy. Grandma did this every year, mostly in autumn when the heating started again. Afterward, the heat distributed more evenly, and the system had to work less. Whoever forgets this step often wastes energy unnecessarily. Venting takes only a few minutes and ensures that the radiators work reliably. Thus, the heat is noticeably better utilized, the rooms become evenly warm, and the costs remain under control. Hydraulic balancing. Grandma knew the problem well when one room overheated and another stayed icy. The cause was never the wallpaper or the wall, but the heating water, which distributed itself unevenly. If it flowed too strongly through the first pipes, too little remained for the distant radiators. Hydraulic balancing solves exactly this problem. A specialist adjusts the valves and the pump so that each radiator gets the right amount of water. You feel the effect immediately. Even heat in all rooms, and a noticeably lower consumption. Whoever invests once has peace for years. Grandma would have said it's a reasonable thing because it prevents annoyance and saves money without having to think about it constantly. A simple step in the background that makes the entire heating system more efficient and durable and warms the home more reliably. Correct room temperatures. Grandma knew exactly which heat was right in which room. In the living room, it could be cozy, but in the bedroom, the air should stay fresh. Whoever lives with 20 degrees in the living area has it cozy without unnecessarily straining the heating. In the bedroom, 17 degrees often suffice, which not only lowers the costs, but also promotes sleep. Children's rooms need a pleasant middle temperature. In the bathroom, it can be a bit warmer for a short time. In the kitchen, less is usually enough because the stove and oven give additional heat. The balance is decisive. Whoever heats rooms according to their use lives more economically and healthier. Grandma always made sure that no room cooled out completely because below 16 degrees, moisture threatens on the walls. Thus, the heat distributes sensibly, and each room has the climate that does it good. Shock venting instead of permanent tilting. Fresh air belongs to a good room climate, but it may not be at the expense of the heat escape. Whoever opens the windows wide and closes them again after a few minutes exchanges the used air quickly and keeps the walls warm. Tilted windows, on the other hand, let the energy uninterrupted out and cool the masonry off. Shock venting is therefore the better choice. 5 to 10 minutes suffice, best several times a day, about morning and evening. During that, the heating should be turned down short so that no heat is lost. Thus, the house stays dry, the air clear, and mold has no chance. Grandma had for that a sure feeling. She let the cold wind in and then closed the window decisively. Afterward, the home felt fresh, without losing coziness. Seal windows. A room can be heated warm and still feel cool if it drafts at the windows. Grandma stood often at the windowsill, laid the hand at the joint, and felt immediately where the cold came in. She grabbed then to fabric strips or blankets and sealed the gaps. Today, that succeeds with self-adhesive sealing tapes or rubber strips that are quickly attached. Also, roller shutter boxes should not be forgotten because there escapes especially much heat. Who seals these places carefully feels the difference immediately. The air stays calm, the room acts quieter, and the heating has to perform less. It are small works with great effect. One preserves the heat in the house and keeps the winter outside. So arises the feeling of coziness that many still know from childhood, when outside the wind whistled and inside everything stayed warm. Draft stopper at doors. Under the doors, drafts often a lot of cold into the house. An unassuming gap suffices, and the cold lays itself in the hallway. A heavy curtain in front of the door changes immediately the feeling. The fabric holds the cold air back and preserves the heat inside. Grandma hung in winter such curtains in front of the front door. When one pushed them to the side, one felt the difference like a clear boundary between outside and inside. That was not only practical, it gave also a feeling of coziness. A thick curtain can make a simple door to a safe barrier against the frost. It should reach to the floor and lie close at the wall. Who implements that saves energy and creates at the same time a cozy mood that makes the entrance area to a warm reception. Close doors between warm and cold rooms. Warm air seeks always the way into cooler rooms. If doors remain open, loses the living space quickly at coziness, and the heating runs on high tours. Closed doors, on the other hand, hold the heat there, where one needs it. That is a plain gesture that astonishing much achieves, especially between living room and corridor or between heated rooms and attic, decides it on the comfort. Also, moisture stays better controlled, because warm air that pulls into cold rooms can settle on the walls. Grandma reminded her family often to it, doors to close, if outside the frost stubbornly stayed. For her that was obvious, a part of the everyday in winter. This attention ensures that the heat evenly, the costs not unnecessarily rise. A small moment of mindfulness with great effect for the whole apartment. Use blinds and curtains. When the sun shines into the room, changes everything. Light streams through the window, lays itself on the floor and warms the air, without the heating having to do something. Who opens roller shutters and curtains in the morning, loads the heat consciously into the house. Especially at the windows after south, one feels slowly how the room fills. Grandma put her chair gladly exactly there, where the rays glided over the wood, and let the heat work. It was an enjoyment, and at the same time, a clever use of what nature gives. Every hour sun saves energy, and incidentally, the mood rises. In the evening, it suffices, roller shutters and curtains again to close, to preserve the stored heat. So arises a simple daily rhythm that makes the winter brighter and the heating costs easier bears. Use solar heat. When the sun shines into the room, changes everything. Light streams through the window, lays itself on the floor, and warms the air, without the heating having to do something. Who opens roller shutters and curtains in the morning, loads the heat consciously into the house. Especially at the windows after south, one feels slowly how the room fills. Grandma put her chair gladly exactly there where the rays glided over the wood and let the heat work. It was an enjoyment and at the same time a clever use of what nature gives. Every hour sun saves energy, and incidentally, the mood rises. In the evening it suffices, roller shutters and curtains again to close, to preserve the stored heat. So arises a simple daily rhythm that makes the winter brighter and the heating costs easier bears. Don't block radiators. Heat needs space to unfold in the room. A radiator that disappears behind a sofa cannot fulfill its task. Instead of warming the air, it heats only the furniture. Grandma left therefore always a peace distance. Even if the space was tight, she paid attention to it, that nothing heavy blocked the radiator. Also curtains that reach to the floor, hold the heat back if they hang directly in front. Who pays attention to that feels immediately how evenly the temperature rises. The room becomes faster cozy, the heating runs shorter, and the air stays fresh. Already a few centimeters distance suffice to make the difference. It is the small decisions in the furnishing that make the difference at the end. Equip radiators with reflection foil. Behind every radiator, Grandma imagined how the cold from outside knocks. A simple solution preserves the heat in the room. With a reflection foil at the wall, the heat radiates back into the room instead of escaping to the outside. The effect is quiet, but noticeably noticeable. The heating runs shorter, the air becomes evenly warm, and the coziness rises. Such a foil is quickly attached, stays invisible, and works nevertheless day for day. Already a few minutes work secure many hours' heat. Who has his radiators at exterior walls stand should not underestimate this small protection. It is a measure that hardly falls on, yet it gives the reassuring feeling, the heat firmly in the house to hold when outside the frost presses. Carpets on cold floors. A room can be heated warm and yet feel cool if the floor stores the cold. Stone and wood conduct it upward, and the feet notice it immediately. A carpet changes this feeling in a moment. It holds the heat in the room, dampens the cold of the floor, and gives coziness. Grandma laid in winter her thick carpets out, some self-woven, others preserved over years. They belong to the picture of the parlor, like the oven or the lamp at the table. They made the difference. They brought rest and coziness into the room. Already, a small runner suffices to make the climate noticeably pleasanter. Who stands on a warm carpet needs not to turn the heating higher. It is a peace living culture that preserves heat and lets the winter quieter become. Hot water bottle instead of extra heating. Grandma brought at cold evenings the hot water bottle into the bed. Wrapped in a cloth, it lay between the blankets and transformed the cold into coziness. The water in it stayed over hours warm, and who cuddled at it felt immediately well. Such a source of punctual heat makes it possible to turn the heating quieter without giving up coziness. On the sofa, under the blanket, or directly at the feet, the hot water bottle gives a heat that reaches the whole body. It saves energy because not the entire room has to be strongly heated. Filled with hot but not boiling water, it works safe and reliable. Important is to check it regularly on small cracks. This small ritual brings not only heat, it tells also a story of care, of simple means, and of a winter that became softer. Use oven heat. After baking, the oven is still long warm. This heat disappears not immediately. It sticks in the metal and in the walls of the device. Who opens the door after the switching off, lets it stream into the room, and makes it for a while cozier. Grandma did that often. While the scent of fresh bread or cake wafted through the house, the residual heat filled the kitchen with coziness. It was as if heat and scent went hand in hand. The heating had to work hardly in this time because the oven contributed its own. Important is, the oven never alone to use for heating. It remains a supplement, an additional source that one can use. Especially at cold days, is this small moment a gift. It makes the room warm and tells at the same time of coziness. Cook with lid. A pot without lid loses uninterrupted heat. The water boils longer, the stoveplate eats more energy, and in the kitchen, the heat escapes useless into the air. With lid, the heat stays in the pot, the food cooks faster, and the consumption sinks noticeably. Grandma laid never a pot on the stove without having the matching lid at hand. The sound of the lid belonged to the everyday, like the quiet bubbling underneath. While the content quietly simmered, the kitchen warmed also, and the heat stayed in the room. Who cooks so saves electricity, time, and heating costs at the same time. Because every dish delivers incidentally a contribution to the coziness. A small attention in the everyday makes the difference, and it shows how many ways there are heat consciously to use without something being wasted. Dry laundry in the apartment carefully. Grandma strung in winter lines crossed through the warm parlor. Socks, cloths, and bed linen hung there and dried slowly in the soft heat. The scent of fresh laundry mingled with the cozy air and created a quite own mood. At the same time, changed the room climate. The moisture from the fabrics made the air pleasanter. Whoever hung laundry like that felt immediately the difference. The air became softer, the skin tensed less, and even the breathing went easier. This form of drying saves also energy, because a dryer is not needed. Yet moderation is decisive. Too much wetness can collect at cold walls and favor mold. Therefore, one must vent regularly, best with wide-opened window for some minutes. Right dosed brings the drying of laundry in the room not only heat, but also a piece coziness back into the everyday. Homemade heat pads. Grandma sewed in winter small pillows, filled with cherry pits or grain. She laid them in the warm oven, took them out later, and distributed them to her family. The scent of the heated fabric and the gentle heat belonged to the quiet moments of the evenings. A heat pad stores the heat and gives it evenly off, often over many hours. It fits the form of the body and gives targeted heat there where it is needed. At cold feet, in the back or in the bed, arises immediately a feeling of coziness. This heat source saves heating costs because the whole room does not have to be stronger heated. Important is not to heat the pillow too strong and to store dry so that the filling lasts long. A simple piece fabric filled with natural materials can make the winter noticeably easier. Insulate heating pipes. Uninsulated pipes lose steadily their heat, especially in cellars or on attics. Who insulates them ensures that the energy stays there where it is needed. With foam or mineral wool, the lines can be easily clad. Joints should be carefully closed, so the loss reduces by a multiple, and the radiators become faster warm. The effect shows not only in the room climate, but also later in the bill. Grandma knew that long ago. She took old blankets, wrapped them around the pipes, and tied them fast. It was a work that belonged obviously to the autumn. Today, the insulation fulfills the same purpose, only more durable and cleaner. Who protects the pipes, prevents unnecessary losses, and secures more even heat in the whole house? A small intervention with noticeable effect for many winters. Thick curtains at exterior doors. A door is often the place at which the winter enters the house. Already a fine gap suffices, and the cold lays itself in the hallway. A heavy curtain in front of the door changes immediately the feeling. The fabric holds the cold air back and preserves the heat inside. Grandma hung in winter such curtains in front of the front door. When one pushed them to the side, one felt the difference like a clear boundary between outside and inside. That was not only practical, it gave also a feeling of coziness. A thick curtain can make a simple door to a safe barrier against the frost. It should reach to the floor and lie close at the wall. Who implements that, saves energy, and creates at the same time a cozy mood that makes the entrance area to a warm reception. Doormat against cold. Grandma laid in winter-heavy carpets in front of the doors. For her it was obvious to catch the frost already at the entrance. A thick mat lay like a guard at the threshold and held the cold back that tried through the gap into the house. Who went over it felt immediately the difference. It was softer under the feet, warmer in the hallway, and at the same time the dirt from outside stayed outside. A good mat fulfills several tasks at once. It closes the gap that the door leaves open and preserves the heat inside. Best suit dense fabrics from wool or felt that are robust and durable. Important remains to keep it dry and shake out regularly. With such simple means one can bear the winter better, and the home receives each with coziness. Place furniture smartly. The arrangement of the furniture often decides how warm a room is perceived. A sofa directly at the exterior wall feels quickly cool, even if the heating runs. Who chooses the place at an inner wall feels immediately more coziness. Also, the radiators should stay free. A cabinet in front or a long sofa block the heat, and it stays at the wrong place hanging. Grandma placed her furniture with consideration. The table stood so that the heat free into the parlor streamed, and the sitting corners were there where one felt most well. With such decisions arose a room that not only functional but also warm acted. Already, few changes can improve the living climate without the heating having to run stronger. It is an art of the furnishing that connects comfort and thrift. Home remedy: strengthen radiators with aluminum bowls. On the radiator often stood a small bowl with water. Slowly, the heat evaporated the liquid and the air in the room became softer. Who put herbs or orange peels in gave the room, incidentally, a quiet scent. So combined the practical with the sensory. Grandma knew exactly how important these bowls were. When the winter air became dry, the heat felt pleasanter, the skin tensed less, and even the breathing went easier. Some laid additionally foils behind the radiators so that the heat not through the walls escaped, but back into the room radiated. It are unassuming things that nevertheless noticeably work. Important is the bowls regularly to fill and clean keep so that no lime edge forms. Such simple means made the difference and ensured for a heat that filled the whole room. Layering principle for clothing. Grandma reminded her family every winter to wear several layers. First the undershirt, then shirt or sweater, over it the cardigan. Each layer held a piece heat fast, and the air in between acted like an invisible blanket. So could the room temperature stay lower without someone freezing. Who dressed in onion style felt protected and movable at the same time. The scent of wool, the rustling of the fabrics at dressing, all that belonged to the evenings at the fireplace or at the table. Layers give security. They catch the cold off before it reaches the body. It is a simple principle that has proven itself since generations. Who heeds it, saves heating costs, and keeps the feeling of coziness. Stay together in the warm room. Grandma called at cold winter evenings the whole family into the living room. There the oven crackled and the heat collected, while outside the frost painted on the windows. Several people in one room change immediately the climate. Every body gives off heat. The air becomes denser, the feeling of coziness stronger. When the life concentrates on one room, can other rooms stay cooler? Doors closed, the heat stays bundled, and the heating costs sink. But it goes not only about numbers. Games, conversations, and common eating let the evenings become lively. They connected with voices, with laughter, with stories that still echoed long. So became the living room to the center of the house, a place at which one not only saved heating energy, but created memories that made the winter easier and until today after effect. Use warming bed pads. A warm bed decides how recuperative the night becomes. Thick pads from sheep wool or heavy quilts store the heat that the body gives off and hold it over many hours fast. So stays the sleeping place pleasant even if the room is cool. Who beds in several layers feels immediately the coziness that only a well-prepared bed can give. Thereby, one can turn the heating quieter without freezing. The breath stays fresh, the sleep deeper, and in the morning one feels rested. Grandma laid in winter her thick feather beds out, carefully shaken up so that they lay like a protective cover over the body. This ritual belonged to the evenings when the frost knocked at the panes. So became the bed to the island of the heat and to the center cold nights. Seal doors to stairwells. Treppenhäuser and cellar corridors are cold zones that unnoticed much heat swallow. Through gaps at the doors, the cold enters the house and pulls the heat from the living rooms out. Who seals these places, holds the coziness there where it is needed. Already a dense mat or a fabric roll at the floor makes a noticeable difference. Grandma laid in winter heavy blankets at the door to the corridor, firmly rolled up so that no breath of frost into the parlor crept. It was a small gesture that immediately showed effect. With protected doors, the temperature stays more stable, the heating works quieter, and the entrance area loses its cool draft. So becomes the house to a closed unit that preserves heat and keeps the winter outside. And so much warmth is in the simple things. If you like these ideas, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any further stories and tips that make the winter easier. Stay warm, stay frugal, and see you in the next video.